welcome y'all to Backwoods Obscura, a podcast dedicated to the lore, legends, and myths surrounding the creatures that may lurk in your backyard. My name's Hewitt.
I'm Chris. How you doing tonight?
Pretty solid. Pretty solid. How about you?
I'm doing great because this is the first podcast recording that we're doing when the podcast is actually live.
Oh, sweet.
So,
do we got any algorithm numbers on that?
It's like 20 people right now.
Shit, you know what? That's actually pretty impressive to me.
Honestly, I think okay, so as of right now, as of recording this, we only have 2 podcasts up, and we're about to have another one up with our recording schedule in a couple of days. But usually it takes like a few episodes in to really see what the numbers are going to be. But I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I'm just glad we got it up and we're sitting here recording.
Dope.
Aside from that, things have been going pretty good. But yeah, today we're talking about, we have this thing where we were initially, we're going to do the weird obscure monsters, but this is another example of a quote unquote weird obscure creature or monster or ghost that just is tied to a bigger phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So the Feu Follet.
Feu Follet.
Either Feu Follet or Feu Follet is a
Le Fufu.
Le Fufu.
No,
Le Feu
no,
Follet.
no, Le Fufu.
No, Le Fufu. But this is something that is in a lot of different cultures. I saw things all the way in Eastern cultures and South America that are not scarily, but
it's kind of a common phenomenon around the whole planet of what these things might or might not be.
Wherever there's a swamp or a wetland, you hear about these.
Where the land wet.
Where land wet, where it's super wet and super moist. Anyway, so we both kind of knew about the Feu Follet or Feu Follet. There's actually different spellings of this.
That tracks because of just the way most of these stories kind of went word of mouth for a lot of this. So how someone spells it kind of changes. Also, we live in the South. One parish to another or one county to another, you will watch people spell something completely ridiculous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Washita starting with an O.
Yeah, well, that's a Native American. There's a lot of Native American names down here too, so I think that gets into the mix. And then you have the French language, which is
it's more on the French for me because if the British had shown up here and people said we're the Washita, that's a W.
It's that's a W. I don't know why the British sounded like that, but
I am a pure-blooded British man coming out of London. Over here,
I need my beans on toast.
Okay, we need to stop or else we're going to get in trouble.
I need my jellied eels. But, okay, so the Feu Follet is a creature connected to the Will-O-Wisp. You looked up a lot of stuff on the Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, I got quite a bit. Hold on. 1, 2, 3... Then the Secret Santa list.
Oh, the Secret Santa. Oh, wow. Hey.
So I got 3 pages on the Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, that's good because I only really have one because from what I saw, there wasn't a lot of interesting differentiations when it came to the Feu Follet. They're kind of just straight up copy and paste. We talked about the Rougarou, and the Rougarou, it's a werewolf creature and it has similarities, but it's not. I wouldn't call the Rougarou a werewolf simply because there's so many weird and fascinating things that differentiate it from that. It is a werewolf-like entity. The Feu Follet is pretty much a Will-O-Wisp. It's just the Cajun Will-O-Wisps. There are some distinctions, and there are some Louisiana-based distinctions as well, which I'll get into. But, the first thing we got to go over, it is, like I said, it's just a ball of light that you see in the swamp. like the Will-O-Wisp. It's basically the size of a candlelight. You see it out in the swamp. There is like I don't know if this is a differentiation. Maybe you can illuminate me on this, but
I see what you did there.
yeah. When it comes to the Feu Follet, it's also in cemeteries.
Yeah, I found that in mine too, which is slightly different than a lot of Will-O-Wisps. Will-O-Wisps usually don't like appear in a European cemetery, mostly because the connotations of the cemeteries have been consecrated, or it has a grim protecting it, and the Will-O-Wisp being more of a fey type thing in that. So it might, like, it showing up in graveyards over here was a little bit of a weird thing even when I saw and looked into it.
Yeah. So that was a big thing here. I saw a lot of different names for it. The Cajun Fairy was one of them, which goes back to the fey nature. Feu Follet, also Feu Follet. Like, one word, F-I-F, like...
It's
really...
Montague, extra letters.
Yeah. There's the Feu Follet, and there were some sources I saw that said it was marsh fire or crazy fire, but when I typed it into Google Translate, it just translated Feu Follet into Will-O-Wisp. So
I found the same thing as either crazy fire, marsh fire, or in a couple cases, like someone's specific name fire.
Yeah. Actually, getting into that, William of the Wisp is the origin, so I think you would...
Yeah, I have a little bit on that.
Oh, I was going to let you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was also going to wait for future Chris to edit out that I burped.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you want me to take a little bit of bit with going from the European end of the Will-O-Wisp?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
So, my notes start off with Will-O-Wisp when ADHD is deadly. Because, I mean, it's also known as Ignis Fatuus, which sounds like ignorant fart to me, but it means fool's fire. It lures you out into the woods. In England, specifically the bogs, out into the moors. And the rest of the world, it's usually associated with marshlands and decay, and kind of in the places where death is close and you can smell it because we live in a swamp.
Yeah, I mean, swamps aren't exactly the best smelling areas. Like, I mean, if you're used to that, probably don't smell it as much, but there's a lot of decaying plant and animal matter everywhere.
See, so some of the origins I got is that the Will-O-Wisp, especially more towards Britain, is a ghost seeking to reclaim its life from the living. So, especially when I've used them, and if you ever played D&D, the 5th edition Will-O-Wisps are jacked up. Like, they are...
Yeah, they're very...
They always, like, hang around where death is. It's like they're feeding on it. They're kind of a death phage, kind of feeding off of it. There's a chance that they're goblins with torches, or one of my favorite ones from Germany, it's unbaptized babies.
That actually gets into something I looked up. Unbaptized babies, or just babies in general, was like babies that died in childbirth or something like that, was the Feu Follet origin story.
Let's just say that is the darkest origin for this thing, because like, hey, I died before I could be baptized. Now I'm just a floating ball of light that like might lead you to your doom in the swamp. Like, that's jacked. That's kind of jacked up.
Well, there's actually one, I don't know if you got it, but with the Feu Follet, the dead baby origin story, I hate saying that. That's a bad term. One of the things that the Feu Follet might do is like visit a baby in their nursery to steal their breath.
I didn't see that, but there's several other creatures we've looked into that
are
kind of an explanation for SIDS.
Yeah, like if you wake up and your baby has like rosy cheeks or is flushed, it's said that the Feu Follet came in to steal some of their breath. Which is weird, because that's kind of a deviation from what I know of the Feu Follet, which is something that kind of lures you out into a swamp or into a bog to kill you.
I mean, it's one of those things is that Fae always make a good boogeyman. But also, this means I'm about to have to fight a Feu Follet because my baby got rosy cheeks all the time.
It's like, oh, come on, you fucking bundle of light. I'm going to beat your ass.
I'm about to have to box a ghost baby, and I don't think that makes me sound good at all.
No,
it doesn't.
Let's move on.
So there's William-O-The-Wisp, which is where we get the term Will-O-Wisp from, or one of the places we get Will-O-Wisp. And it's a jack-o'-lantern style story.
Yeah. Which jack-o'-lantern is actually tied to the Will-O-Wisp.
Right, because it's, again, the origins of the jack-o'-lantern and the origins of the Will-O-Wisp kind of have the same story. So there was a blacksmith by the name of William, and he was barred from heaven and sent back to Earth to be better. He wasn't. So he got that one time I was reincarnated as a blacksmith, the light novel, and came back and did the exact same crap with his OP skills.
Yeah.
And so he died again. And so he was, hell was like, nah, bro, you can't come in. So he was cursed to roam the land, and he made a torch. Like, Satan's like, you can't get in here. And like, while Satan was telling him you can't get in here, he just shoved a stick between Satan's legs and caught the coals of hell and ignited his torch, and it ignited blue because of course hell's flames don't burn the same color. I mean, I've watched it. Well,
anime. Blue is
hotter. So now he has this blue torch, and so William was forced to wander the earth because heaven wouldn't let him in, and he was too bad for hell even, and yet he stole fire from Satan. And so he wanders around, and the blue flame was supposed to be William, and since he's a dick, for lack of a better term, William's a dick, he's going to lead you out in the woods and let you die. Like, he's like, I didn't kill you, but I might have led you to a wolf den, and that's not my problem.
It's one of those, like, fey but not really stories where it's someone that is mischievous and also malicious.
Well, here's the deal. The funny thing with you saying that is, to protect yourself from Will-O-The-Wisp, you're supposed to carry cold iron.
That is something with the Feu Follet as well.
Also, you could put a knife
in a post.
In a fence post, because the Feu Follet will get distracted, because again, apparently they kill you with your ADHD, but they also have ADHD. Yeah. So like, man, that's a good knife.
And I'm going to go off on a little bit of tangent, which is, okay, so it's something that is like, that draws you out into the swamp or the bog to kill you, right?
It's why the movie Brave by Disney is such a piece of crap. It's like, follow the Will-O-Wisp into the wood. No!
No. But one of the things you can do to deter the Will-O-Wisp is throw mustard seeds on the ground for them to count.
Kind of like a vampire with rice.
Or the Rougarou, which is... It's a common trope, like, to throw something down on the ground for something to count, but it doesn't...
I have to ask this. At this point, the number of creatures we have talked about and the ways to avoid them, were the Middle Ages just trying to make fun of people on the spectrum? Because, like, I'm starting to get those vibes like, hey, how do we fight this? I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff on the ground and it has to count it.
I mean...
I feel like I'm starting
to feel like that's...
I kind of feel like they're attacking people now.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past it, but I think it's just more of an easy... I think it's more of a thing that you can say, get people to do... Okay, saying... Like, you know, with superstitions, there are
So you're telling me it was the big rice industry trying to get everybody to buy rice to throw it down to save themselves from the Rougarou and everything?
Well, no, it's a ritual they can get people to do, and if people are doing that, then they're abiding by the rules of that culture. So if you have someone going out into the woods when they're not supposed to, but they're also like... They see something and then they throw down rice to ward off whatever.
So many confused wolves.
Yeah, so many confused wolves. That person comes back and they did that. Everything worked out and now they're following the rules.
That's true.
Yeah. So I think it's more of that than it is like making fun of people on the spectrum.
It's just that like when we go through this, like you look at some of the ways to defeat these creatures that are not brutally murder them. It's
a lot of things that you would see, like hyperfixation.
Exactly. So it's one of those, like, were y'all just scared of all people on the spectrum and you decided that they're vampires?
I wouldn't put it past people back in those days.
You know what? Like, this is probably a part we're cutting out right now, but you and I have just, like, asked a philosophical question.
Yeah, we'll move on. We were talking about Will-O-The-Wisp.
Now, you got more on William?
Well, I got a little bit. The thing is...
What did you find about our good old Billy Boy?
Well, I didn't find anything about him specifically, but I found that in the Feu Follet lore, it's not just tied to William about his fate. Anyone that shirks the second chance at penance becomes a Feu Follet, basically.
Oh, so like you're like, hey, forgive you once, shame on you, or shame on me, or, you know, forget penance the second time, Feu Follet?
Yeah. So if you're someone that is, like, let's say you had a bad life, or you led a bad life, and then the saints were like, we'll give you a second chance, and you're like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to be bad again. They're like, well, throw you in a swamp.
Now you're a fart ball in the swamp that's ignited.
Yeah. And you just do your fart ball thing.
Do your fart ball thing. New t-shirt idea.
Just go farting around, leading people to die in the swamp.
That sounds like Chipotle.
Yeah, I mean, even with the dysentery.
Now, I got some other things for the origins of this. There's a chance that there are goblins or elves that are walking with torches. Now, you got to watch out for it with some of these stories if it's goblins or elves that are walking with it, because there's a chance they are the precursor to the Wild Hunt.
Oh, I'm thinking Exalted now.
Not just that. I definitely want to do. It's not 100% a Louisiana thing, and some people have heard it because of The Witcher and some other series. But the Wild Hunt is one of the most terrifying things that has ever been thrown out about the Fae, and the fact that there is multiple sources of lore that Santa Claus may have led the Wild Hunt at least once.
Okay, I need to know what this is because I don't think I've heard this before.
Okay, so the Wild Hunt, usually led by the Erlking, the king of elves, the king of goblins in German. It's an explanation for SIDS a lot of times, because what it is all the Fae get together and they go over a land, and you have a couple choices with the Wild Hunt. You can join, you can run and become its prey, or you can get mowed down. The other one is don't be anywhere near it and don't participate, don't open up your doors. But a lot of times it's used...
you're fucked either way.
More or less, the best way to deal with the Wild Hunt is to not participate and stay indoors whenever it's supposed to happen. But a lot of times, the scientific explanation it was used to kind of explain SIDS again, or unexplained deaths, is that the Earl King led his host on a hunt. And what do the Fae, what do the elves hunt? It could be humans. So goblins and elves walking around with torches ahead of it would be like those folks that were back when people did fox hunting or did royal hunts. You had people that would flush things out. Now, the other thing with it is they were meant to lure humans out because, again, we got ADD, all this. And the thing is if you ever tried to catch a Will-O-Wisp, they'd vanish. Yeah. Which is one reason you would get lost. There's also a chance it's connected to Puck, or the idea like satyrs as well. Another Fae. The only reason I say like that is because it's like, there's Pucks. I'm like, Puck was a character in Midsummer Night's Dream. So here's a bunch of fun stuff about Will-O-Wisp before we go back to the Feu Follet. I've got a couple ways to become a Feu Follet. Or become a Will-O-Wisp in Belgium. Don't baptize your baby.
That's a Feu Follet as well.
Germany, pull it too much.
I didn't see that one.
Pull it too much.
What does that mean? Like, I mean, I'm not a parent. You are. Maybe you know what that means.
Oh, pull it too much?
Yeah.
You'll go blind.
Oh, pull it. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were, like, talking about, like, doing...
Bop it. Pull it.
Like, I thought you were talking about doing chiropractic on a baby or something.
No. You pull it too much.
Or else we'd be in trouble. There's so many chiropractic offices around here.
So many Feu Follets. You crank the yank too much.
Okay.
In France, be a woman and unhappy.
I mean, that's, like, during that time, it's gotta be a huge number.
Okay, Scandinavia, move your neighbor's boundary marker. Move their fence.
Well, that's very specific. I feel like that's like some angry Scandinavian being like, you know what? You're going to be a fucking Will-O-Wisp. Stop moving my fence.
God damn it, Sven. This is my property. You moved it 6 feet over.
I'm going to lose my mind. My sheep are losing it. They need room to breathe.
Germany, be a bad priest. Or fight your way out of purgatory anime style.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like the movie at the end, where Jet Li is fighting his way out of the prison. Yeah,
just fight your way out of purgatory, and then you'll be a Will-O-Wisp. So these are the ones that I found that were the funniest. My favorite one is still Germany. You pull it too much. Like, if you pull it too much, son, put it up there, son, or you'll become a Will-O-Wisp.
Put it up. Don't be pulling it, or else you'll be a Will-O-Wisp.
One day you'll go, and there'll just be a blue flame that comes out, and that's your soul.
There's your soul. You're a Feu Follet.
Is that what you said when it happened, son? I'll be sad, but I'll bury your body.
Better put your dick up, son.
No, I mean, it's these are all terrible yet funny because they're so terrible. Like,
Oh, I got an interesting
Why,
one
why
for
are there
you,
so
though.
many? I'm pretty sure there's a reason why there's so many Feu Follets. Is because if in France you were a woman and unhappy, you became a Feu Follet.
Yeah. And if you're in Germany and pulling it, I mean,
And
what else you have to
obviously,
do?
everybody was moving fences in Scandinavia. Or let's, we could put this on a very positive light. So many people have fought their way out of purgatory.
Fucking just beating ass out of purgatory.
Just punching everything, getting out of purgatory back to earth and going, the fuck's in and out burger?
I got a really cool one for you.
Oh, what's that one?
For the Feu Follet, I'm going to bring it back to our friends Jean Lafitte and William Kidd.
Ooh, bringing in the pirates.
Yeah, we're bringing in pirates. So if you don't know, there's ghost stories about buried treasure in Louisiana.
I think we talked about that at, I mispronounced it. Knox informed me how to pronounce cretin. I'm still pronouncing it wrong, and I will continue to do so.
No, I mean, we're not we're North Louisianian. We are not Cajun or Creole. So, just to let you know. But Jean Lafitte and William Kidd were set to bury treasure here. They were two pirates. But one of the things they would do when they would bury treasure was kill one of their crew members and bury it with the treasure because they thought their soul would bind to the treasure.
Okay, this is an awesome D&D setup.
Now, sometimes they would go back and dig up the treasure, as you do as a pirate, after you don't have to worry about the treasure being
ganked.
Yeah, or confiscated or anything like that. But now the soul of that crew member of this pirate had nowhere to go. What does it do? It becomes a Feu Follet. It is now out into the ether of the swamp. It's not into the ether of the swamp. I don't know why I said that, but it's out there, being mischievous or being mad. There's actually, there was a story I did read. I didn't read much of it, of, one of these pirate spirits leading someone out there only to, drown them in the bog.
That's 90% of the stuff I saw about the Feu Follet is if you follow it, you gonna drown.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing. It's like these people found the treasure and in their greed tried to get the treasure, but when you're in a wetland, you gotta be careful. You can't just sit there in muddy water and let yourself sink, let alone dig. You're gonna get swallowed up. But yeah, there's a lot of stories like that. And I just thought that was an interesting one. I love the fact that a lot of these stories are incorporating the pirate stories in Louisiana, which I don't think a lot of people really know about.
Well, I mean, if you go to New Orleans, you'll get some of the pirate stories. And that'd be actually another fun one for us to do, because Lafitte's blacksmith shop is supposed to be haunted in New Orleans. And also, there's 8 different places that you might see Lafitte, from Barataria Bay all the way to Lafayette. So Louisiana was we're on the Caribbean. We were part of, Pirates of the Caribbean. It's one of those of I really wish that movie franchise had at least one Cajun show up and everybody did that dude just say? But they were already doing that with Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But also, you want another fun thing that the Will-O-Wisp and the Feu Follet might be related to?
What is that?
The hobgob.
Oh, so the hobgoblin. Well, I mean, we already talked about the goblin being.
Well, but not just that. There was the hobgoblins. There's so many places and different stories about the origin of the hobgoblin. But there was a man, again, kind of the Will-O-The-Wisp or the Jack-O-Lantern. There was Hob and his lantern. It was more of a continental story. And there's that he led to the Will-O-Wisp idea, but also that he could be the origin of the hobgoblin. So they would go around like the Hobonese goblin or Hob and his lantern to mislead people out in the woods. And again, that trickster spirit. Now, I've got some literary references to the Will-O-Wisp. So back in the 1340s in Wales, especially down north, the southern end, Cornwall Cerf would talk about the cursed lanterns and that every valley had them. So every low place in Wales, they said, was full of wisps. So again, low, boggy areas were prone to sightings of these entities or creatures. In 1563, they were listed as Fool's Fire in some English reports. Shakespeare mentioned Will-O-The-Wisp and Puck together, and also mentioned the Will-O-The-Wisps in Henry IV. Paradise Lost, they're listed as one of the lesser evil spirits. But So there's all these literary ones, but I got a couple explanations for them. But do you got any more that you want to mention, like into their lore, into what they are?
Actually, no. Honestly, when it comes to the Will-O-Wisp, like I said in the beginning, the Feu Follet is scarily close. Not scarily, but it is eerily close to the original lore. Like, any other creature we talk about, you talk about, like, the Falcon Monster, the Rougarou, the Honey Island. There's, like, subtle differences, and they diverge enough for you to actually have something to talk about. The Feu Follet is pretty close to what you would think of as a Will-O-Wisp, and it even goes even further. I looked into some of the other myths. You have to go outside of Western myths to actually get something different. When you get into like Japanese myths and the yokai and things like that. But anywhere where you see Western colonization happen, you see pretty much the same myth, which I thought was at the time I was like, that kind of sucks. I wanted to have more, but at the same time it's interesting. And I think I know why, because there is a pretty solid scientific explanation for the Will-O-Wisp, and I think you already know what it is. To say it simply, it's swamp farts.
Swamp gas.
But I think the reason why it's so consistent is because the sighting of this phenomenon is so consistent.
Well, let's be honest. Probably 90% of the stuff with the Feu Follet is like every other story we've heard. Don't go in the woods or the swamp at night.
Yeah.
And it's how you make it scary. Oh, they'll steal your soul, or they're the souls of like dead babies. Yeah. Like something that'll it's like, I'm not gonna lie, it's probably something fucked up that a dad that was like halfway through the job he was currently on, and like his like not quite 10-year-old came up and asked him a dumb question as far as he's concerned. Like, hey, can I go out in the woods? No, why not? That's the Feu Follet will get you.
And it comes to the point to where, okay, so kids will not respond to you being like, it's dangerous because you might fall and hurt yourself.
I can avoid a wolf.
Yeah, they don't, like, kids don't really have the same sort of, like, mindset as an adult. Not saying kids are stupid.
I am well aware that my children's minds do not work like mine.
They don't see the abstract concept of, you might hurt yourself. But if you say, the evil spirit is going to get you, it's more matter of fact. It's more straightforward. They're like, oh, that's a thing I need to avoid.
And also, let's be honest, ball lightning, natural gas fires igniting out in the swamp. There's something that we can see. We've all seen a weird light in the woods.
Yeah. I think it's one of the few phenomenons I can say that if I were, we've both been out in the woods. We live in the South. We've camped. We've, hung out in the middle of nowhere with friends before, and you see things like that. You see weird lights. I saw weird lights just driving to New Orleans once on the causeway, and I don't know what the fuck it was. It was probably the Cancer Alley or whatever. But that aside, it's a very easy phenomenon to run into.
I did find one very odd explanation for the Feu Follet. Their owls can get a fungal infection, and that fungal infection is bioluminescent. Now, it would be more believable that the Feu Follet was a wandering sentient ball of fire than the chances that you will see this actual real-world phenomenon actually happen. But there are fungal infections that can get on owls, because owls, as much as they're a symbol of death, they're a symbol of wisdom, owls are derpy. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen an owl at the zoo or seen an owl out at a wildlife refuge. Owls are spooky because we decided they were spooky, but they will straight up fly into a tree like any other dumb bird. They can have a fungus grow in their feathers that makes them bioluminescent. Now, is that a solid explanation to why all these happen? Absolutely not. But it could be, because again, here's a random glowing thing going through the woods or chilling up in a tree looking down at you, and you don't necessarily at night see the owl, you see the bioluminescent fungus.
Well, I think it gets into the fact that there's so many different explanations for the Feu Follet or for the Will-O-Wisp that it's really hard to sit there and say, is it really a spirit of a guy that tried to seek penance but shirked it and now is trying to lead people into the swamp? That seems a bit far-fetched when you can say swamp farts ignite, because when they hit oxygen, they hit a fucking flashpoint.
I mean, the other thing with especially a lot of the Feu Follet stories I saw is they were like, I was on a boat and it was like 100 yards away and it lit up.
Yeah.
And there was no way for them, like, there's a lot of them around Grand Isle, but a lot of people couldn't go on to Grand Isle. I mean, there's a lot of them that are connected to some near Honey Island, and Honey Island's not always accessible. So, like, part of the reason I think this myth continues is, one, it's a phenomenon we've all seen. It's all over the world. I mean, again, decomposing matter results in an ignition, which means here's a little poof. It lights up, and of course it's not going to, it's either green or blue. It's an unusual color, and then it's gone. And again, like, I'm on a boat. That was weird. I'm in the middle of the swamp, and that just happened. I don't know what that is, so then my brain starts trying to explain it, and it goes over every terrible thing that possibly could be.
I even read stuff that this is the explanation for, like, the Crusoe and other Indonesian myths, because it's such a prevalent thing. And when you see it so much, I think, like, unlike the Rougarou, which is, like, personally, I don't think there's a giant werewolf-like creature, cursed thing roaming out there. And you're more likely to see something out in the woods in the dark that just happens to have eye shine. And you just kind of, like, associate things, your brain kind of runs. You're always seeing, like, the lights out in the bog. So you're always able to kind of, like, associate the lights out in the bog with this thing. Which is why I don't think, like, I was about to say the Rougarou, but the Feu Follet, I think that's why it didn't really deviate too much, is because it's so...
I mean, yeah, I think this is an easily explained thing. However, not gonna lie, it's a wonderful story, though.
Yeah.
And it adds to the flavor and adds to the character. Therefore, I'm going to say people keep talking about it. It's worth it.
We can sit here and make fun of people who continue to perpetuate these myths, but I think generally these myths kind of add to... I mean, they add to the culture, but they add to us as people and our perceptions, and what makes us interesting is... I mean, I think what makes us interesting is our ability to tell stories and to kind of conjure up these ideas. We don't really know of any other thing that can be like, hey, there is a spirit of a thing out in the woods that brings you out there to kill you. You don't see, like, any other creature doing that, really. And I think that's what makes us cool and unique, and I want to keep that around.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid story, and again, don't go in the woods at night.
Yeah. Also, I was playing Pillars of Eternity. Will-O-Wisp was the thing I ran into today. And I was like, we're going to record this episode. And I run into Will-O-Wisp.
That's really cool.
And just before we end this episode, I'm going to bring up more game stuff, because I found an AD&D version of the Feu Follet.
Ooh.
And it's apparently chaotic good in Ravenloft. I don't know. I mean, I just found that on the internet.
You know what? Is it just the Will-O-Wisp, or is it actually the Feu Follet in Ravenloft?
It was called the Will-O-Dawn.
That's why.
Yeah.
However, here's the deal. If I was a Will-O-Wisp that got stuck in Ravenloft, yes, I would 100% be good.
Yeah,
just because like everything else is terrible.
It's like everything.
I'm going to trick people and drive them out in the woods, but that seems to be everybody's shtick.
It's like everything in Ravenloft just wants to kill you. But anyway, I think that's everything we have to say for the Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah.
And for the Feu Follet. So thank y'all for joining us tonight, or today, or whatever time it is. We usually do other things on our other social media stuff. Team Bonus Action, if you want to...
Yeah, you can find us on teambonusaction.com or Team Bonus Action on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. You can also find us as bonus_team on Twitter. until we get our own social setup for Backyard Obscura. You can find us there because we participate regularly in D&D games and charity events.
And you can find us anywhere on any sort of thing you listen to podcast on. I am currently setting that up right now, so hopefully in the future you can find us every Tuesday setting out a podcast. And until next Tuesday, see you later.
And bon nuit.